Hi guys! So my garbage is in the background twice, and basically I'm a hot mess, so I don't know what else to tell you, but I'm falling apart at the seams. So today I just wanted to quickly jump in here and talk about my experience living in Boston. And I also wanted to mention some of my favorite places in Boston that if you're visiting or if you ever come to Boston ever in your life, these are places I would recommend going to. I have lived here now for 6 months, and honestly, time flies. Because I remember when I moved here in June and in January, and it felt like, oh my god, I'm never gonna get used to this place. I'm never gonna be able to find a bank. I'm never gonna be able to find the grocery store. Like, I felt so disoriented. I felt so lost all the time, and I felt like, oh my gosh, this is gonna take so long to get used to. But something really cool about Boston is that it's actually quite small, so it's pretty easy in that sense to get accustomed to. But it's difficult because the streets here are not like regular city streets. Now I've been told by some true born and raised Bostonians that the reason the way Boston is kind of different than other cities is because they did never change the layout of the city. Like when people first came here and started settling and whatever, they never changed the layout since then. So they literally just poured concrete over old cobblestone roads that didn't make any sense, and they didn't change it. So it's a little confusing. If you're driving, I don't recommend. You will die because the drivers here are absolutely insane. I've almost been hit by a car about 1,000 times. If you're coming to Boston, just don't drive. It's not worth it. Take a taxi, take an Uber, take the transit that we have here. Just don't drive. The other big piece of advice I would say to you is be aggressive in your walking. When you're crossing the streets, you will see people who live in the city are the people that are crossing even when it says not to cross, because we know how long it takes for that hand to change, and nobody's got time to wait, because I literally would have been late for work about 1,000 times if I had waited. So those are some of my very quick tips coming to Boston. It's been a great time living here. I've actually really enjoyed it, more than I thought I would. I've said this before, but before my boyfriend and I met, I never really had any desire to ever come to Boston or ever really to even visit. I never even thought about it. I never it wasn't on my radar at all. But I'm so glad that I've had the opportunity to live here because it's a beautiful city and it's a unique city, and it's definitely one of my favorites. I love it. So I'm going to talk about some of my favorite places in Boston. I think I should probably start with my #1 favorite, which is Back Bay, and that's actually where we lived for 6 months, and so it probably has a special place in my heart for that reason. But also, I love this area. It's everything that you could ever want in a city because you can walk everywhere. It has every shop you could ever need. It has a mall, it has grocery stores, it has banks, just everything. And I love living here. I feel safe, which is one of the biggest things when we were deciding where to live. Other than Patrick's school, we were where do we want to be that's safe for me to feel like I can walk around by myself at night or whatever. The two streets that I recommend walking along if you ever come to the Back Bay are Newbury Street and Boylston Street. Newbury Street is absolutely phenomenal. The first time I came to Boston, we walked down the street and I was like, holy shiitake mushrooms. It was one of the streets that really stood out to me because it was lined with shops, it was all brownstones, it was nothing I'd ever seen before. I visited some of the biggest cities in America, and this was nothing I'd ever seen before. It was absolutely stunning. I loved it. The sidewalks are all old. Be careful, you will trip and fall if you don't pay attention. Literally, I have done it. But it's just beautiful, lots of shopping, lots of yummy food. One of my favorite places to get food is a sushi place on Newbury Street. It's called Umai, and it's delicious and cheap. So definitely my favorite area is Back Bay. I love it so much. It's an area called Beacon Hill, and it's beautiful. It's also old. It's kind of even older than anything I've ever seen before. The apartments there and the houses there are just so amazing. They have lots of history, and it's just very small and cute, and lots of little shops and stuff. Again, on the way to Beacon Hill from Back Bay is a park called Boston Common, and it's one of my favorite parks ever. It's a very small version of Central Park, and it's amazing. It is filled with animals that are completely desensitized to humans, and these squirrels and birds and ducks, and they'll just like run up to you like you're like one of them, and it's so amazing. If you follow me on Snapchat, you probably have seen my encounters with these animals, but I love it so much. We've had picnics there. It's beautiful. I know Central Park is kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to sit on this grass because like you don't know where the grass has been, but Boston Common is not like that. Boston is small, so it just feels like, I don't know, it feels like your neighborhood park. And another place that I love is Faneuil Hall. A lot of amazing food, and it's kind of like a piece of history. I don't actually know the history of it. I don't know a lot of the history in Boston. I know there's lots of stuff that went on during like the Civil War, but I don't know a lot about it. I'm not born and raised American, so I don't know all the history, but I know that Faneuil Hall was like a meeting place back in the day. Not sure exactly what for, but there's also a Freedom Trail that stops at Faneuil Hall. The Freedom Trail is like a tour you can take that you probably know more about it than I do, so I'm not even going to talk about it. But anyways, Faneuil Hall is cool because they converted it into just basically like a marketplace filled with different like vendors, food vendors mostly. Quincy Market is there, and then outside everywhere is like street performers, musicians, and tons of shops. It's very beautiful, very Kodak moment, lots of photo opportunities, and the food is delicious. You'll get some very fun, kind of touristy, authentic New England food, like lobster roll is one of the ones I always notice, and like clam chowder and stuff like that. So definitely a place I would recommend visiting if you're a tourist here. Close to Faneuil Hall is another area called the North End, and the North End is like the Italian area. There's like all this amazing Italian food, and it's so cool. The street is like super narrow, cobblestone. You almost are like, no cars are gonna drive on this. Like no car is gonna like manage it. But then you'll see like a car going by and it's like, oh, we are in the modern age, okay? Lots of like little, like tiny little grocers and cute little bakeries and stuff like that. It's really, really cool, quite touristy, especially like on the main strip. But if you kind of go in a little bit more, you find some cool, authentic, kind of hidden Italian places that are really, really cool. And we had so much fun exploring that area because it's become kind of up and coming. It's probably was at one point quite run down, but I think now it's really expensive and nice. The other place I want to mention isn't actually in like Boston, it's outside of Boston, it's Cambridge. And Cambridge is a place that houses Harvard and MIT, and I know that most of you know Harvard and MIT. I mean, I knew them, and when we walked by MIT, I was like, this is the coolest thing, like, I can't believe it. And then we went on the campus of Harvard, and it was just like I don't feel like I deserve to be here right now, honestly. But the cool thing about Cambridge is that it feels like a really small little town that you're just kind of walking through, even though it's big, and there's lots of really kind of unique places to eat. One of my favorites is Veggie Galaxy, which is like a vegetarian kind of vegan diner, which I've never seen ever, but you can literally get anything on a diner menu at this place that can be made vegan. If you're vegan or vegetarian, if you're vegetarian, like super, super cool. And another place I really love is Life Alive, which is sort of more like hippie and like smoothies and rice bowls, and it's so good. The people are super friendly. There's lots of ice cream. I mean, what more do you want? And then the attractions of like Harvard and MIT are pretty cool. So those are some of my favorite places in Boston. I think I covered the main ones, and if I forgot something, future Emily who's editing this, sorry. But I hope you all enjoyed this video. Let me know down below if you have any favorite places in Boston, or if you want to come to Boston, or if I'm missing something. Is there something that you know about Boston that I don't know about? Again, like I said, it's a pretty amazing city, and it definitely will always have a special place in my heart after living here for 6 months. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you all soon. Bye!